Uh, so this is just going to be a very short thought. I was watching Theater of War Productions is the Women of Trachis, New Jersey Hospice and Palliative Care Nurses Association. It was a performance of Sophocles' Women of Trachis, and one of the things that I really noted was the description of Deianera's suicide. Because suicide is very, very common in Greek tragedy. I mean, it is all over the place. Women who commit suicide in Greek tragedy tend to hang themselves. Antigone hangs herself. Jocasta hangs herself. Phaedra hangs herself. Etc., etc. It goes on. Hanging is the way that women commit suicide in Greek tragedy. But not Deianera. What Deianera does, according to the nurse, who is this sort of Greek messenger figure who tells us about Deianera's death, she takes off her brooch to expose the left side of her body and then falls on a double-edged sword, piercing her liver and then up into her, the nurse's phrases is something like her twice broken heart. Broken the first time because her husband Heracles has taken home a war bride, and broken the second time by the sword. What's striking about this? This is the way a man commits suicide in ancient Greece, in Rome. In the Greco-Roman world, falling on one's sword, this was a masculine way of committing suicide. I think this is what Ajax does in that play. This is what Haemon does in Antigone. This is Roman generals who were disgraced, or Roman politicians who had fallen out of favor. You fall on your sword. It's a male method of suicide. So why does Deianera choose this? Well, there's a couple of things that are worth thinking about here. Much of the last portion of Women of Trachis is devoted to Heracles being like, I have overcome all of these opponents, and I've fought all these monsters and all these labors and these different challenges and things like this, and I've always been successful and no one has ever bested me but Deianera. Like, so in Women of Trachis, Deianera is Heracles' husband. He sends home a war bride, and so she sends him what she thinks is a love potion, which actually turns out to be a poison that brutally kills him. She commits suicide out of remorse for her mistake. Heracles comes on, and he's basically just an ass, which is Heracles. This is the Heracles of actual Greek mythology is not the Disney Hercules and is not Kevin Sorbo's Hercules. Heracles in Greek mythology is very often an ass. He's very often quick to anger. He's very often stubborn. He's very often not all that bright. And this Heracles is definitely in that tradition. So, Deianera is the one person who has defeated Heracles. She is the one person of all the armies, the monsters, the gods, the demigods, the heroes, everybody that Heracles has faced. Deianera is the only one who has been able to kill him. And this is kind of a manly thing. This is kind of a masculine thing. Like, she is successful in this way that everyone else has been unsuccessful. And what strikes me about that, Judith Butler has this book called Antigone's Claim, where basically Butler's core argument is Antigone challenges gender norms by taking on these masculine roles, publicly using rhetoric, for instance, to argue with Creon, these kinds of things. I think Deianera here is doing the same kind of thing. She challenges, even unintentionally, she challenges the very defined gender roles that ancient Athenians would have known by essentially defeating her husband Heracles, defeating this hero, this demigod, more or less in battle. She outmans him in a way. She is more masculine, more successful in this sense than anyone else in, I guess, the canon of Greek mythology who faces off against Heracles. And so we can see that sort of challenge to gender norms in her choosing a very male form of suicide rather than the much more traditionally female approach to suicide.